Hello students, welcome to BTech 360. Today I'm going to talk of TS EAPCET, which is Telangana State Engineering Agriculture Pharmacy Common Entrance Test. Now earlier it was EAMCET, which is Engineering Agriculture Medical Common Entrance Test. But since NEET came in, medical went away and pharmacy came in. So the nomenclature has changed from what is EAMCET to EAPCET, EAPCET. Right? And what we will talk of is the top 5 colleges that accept the Telangana State Common Entrance Test, the scores that you get there, and why we call them the top 5, and what kind of placements can you expect when you get into these colleges. Before I move any further, there are 3 things that I would request you to do. Please subscribe to BTech 360, 1. 2, if you want to talk to any of our counselors, write to us on the WhatsApp number, because a lot of you might not want to interact with us on on the social media. So write a message to us on our WhatsApp number that is out here, and one of our counselors will call you and help you out. And third, most importantly, if you want me to cover any examination or any college that you want to get into in greater depth, write to me in the message box. I'll try to cover that for you, right? So now let's talk of the top 5 engineering colleges accepting TS EAPCET, including placement statistics, the cutoffs that you need, and how you can get into them. Now, just to put things in perspective, in all there are total 1,16,877 seats that are out there, of which you actually have 90,921 which were earlier there, and through the management quota, about 25,000-30,000. So you actually have this kind of a number. And I think the total number of students who appear for the examination is about 2.5 lakh or some such thing, right? So that is the competition that you're dealing with at this point in time. For all the numbers that you need to know, there are about 2,20,000 plus students who registered to appear for the TS EAPCET examination, and about 2,07,000 students appeared for the examination. So every calculation that you have from here on will start working on the 2,07,000 that who appeared for the examination. For the 2,07,000 that you have, the number of seats that you have is 90,921. So your ratio of chance of getting into it is about 9 out of 20. Right? And that is what is your base figure that you will be dealing with from here on, right? These are management seats which are at higher price. So you keep that aside for a moment, right? Now let's talk about the 5 colleges that are very important here that you should be looking at joining if you get a chance. The first one is JNTU Hyderabad. Now, as I told you, there were 4 universities that you have which are all JNTU, right? One is JNTU Hyderabad, 2 is JNTU Kakinada, 3 is JNTU Vizianagaram, and 4 is JNTU Anantapur. Now, those 3, the other 3 are in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Earlier, they were a part of the United Andhra Pradesh, and only JNTU Hyderabad is sitting with us at this point in time. And JNTU Hyderabad, the entry into that is through the TS EAPCET examination. Now, this was established in 1965. It's a government institution, 95 acres of land, about 6,000 students that they have, of which 49% are boys, 51% are girls. This 30% coming from outside the state is because of the United Andhra. The data is about 24-25 acre, which means students would have gone into it in 2021. So a student from Andhra could come in and study in Telangana earlier because there was a 10-year status quo that was given as far as education was concerned, which is where this 30% come in. If you look at it now, it will be 100%. Every new intake that you have from now on, all the students will be from the state of Telangana only. So this data to that extent is slightly dated because this was a part of the United Andhra Pradesh data that's coming in, right? And about 425 students come from outside the country also, which means a lot of NRI students come to JNTU Hyderabad to study and pursue their BTech programs, right? And this faculty is 500, which means we are dealing with for each faculty about 12 students. Why is it so good? The intake for the 23-24 batch was 1,307. If you include a lateral, it becomes 1,417. Of this 1,417, and we're talking about the 23-24, which means they joined in the year 2021, right? Of the 1,301 who graduated, 577 were placed, 397 moved for higher education. Now, for me, this again is a bit of a red flag because just look at this whole number. Here, 120 students were moving for higher studies, and here this jumped about 3.5 times or 3.2 times. That for me is a red flag, which means you simply cannot have students just moving for higher studies and growing by 3.5 times, which seems to have happened here. It should have been 120, 125, but it's become that, right? And because of that, they showed a placement of 64%, because what they do is 1,301 minus 397 is what they start working on, which means about dealing with about 900 students. From 900, 577 were placed, so that converts to 63.7%. But if you have to add this also and deal with it from 1301 and place only 577, the placement is less than 40%, about 40%. Right? I just want to mark this. This has to be flagged, so I'm flagging it. And even then, the median placement salary is 5 lakh rupees only. So if you just put things in perspective, what we're dealing with is some of the best students of Telangana are getting into this particular college, but the placement and the student outcomes seem to be not living up to the quality of intake that they have. And why do I say the quality of intake is good? Because just look at this number. Of course, we're talking of how many students are placed, 62 from CSE, EC is 40 students, electrical is 27 students, mechanical 36 students, civil 20, metallurgical 26, and chemical 18. By the way, each of them will have at least 16 students intake, at least 60. It can be 120 or 180 also, but at least 60. So when you actually have 18, 26, 20 and 36 placed, which means that less than 1/3 of the students were placed as far as chemical is concerned. That's the kind of number that you're dealing with, right? Now, why do I say they're the best students? Because remember I told you about 207,000 students, appeared for the examination. To get into CSE branch here, the highest closing rank is 1,228. Now, when you deal with 1,228 as a rank, you're dealing with 99.4 percentile. They're the best of the best of the state of Telangana. And that's the kind of salary that you're getting, right? For BTech CSE AIML, 1,614, right? Out of 2 lakh, remember 2 lakh? So we're dealing with 99.3 percentile. For BTech CSE with cybersecurity, 3,268. So we're dealing with 98.5 percentile. So that's the kind of quality of intake that we're dealing with. BTech EC is 2,719. So we're dealing with about 98.8 percentile. And for BTech EEE is 6,932. So we're dealing with 97 percentile, 96.8 percentile. So it's between 97 and 99 percentile is what we're talking of. But the kind of placement that you see on the other side is not reflective of the quality of intake that you have. And that is something that JNTU Hyderabad needs to really work on, right? The next one that you have is Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology. This is a very good college. It's a private college, by the way. Established in 1979. So 47 years of legacy. It's a private college spread over 51 acres. 5,646 is the total number of students pursuing UG 4-year program. 63% are boys, 37% are girls. And 9% students come from outside the state of Telangana. 90% are from within the state, and about 1.2% come from outside the country also. And this happens typically in Andhra and Telangana because you have a lot of NRIs who settled abroad and they send the children across for studying in their own state. Now, here when you look at it, the total intake is 1,200, including lateral 1,308, 1,226 graduated. So we're dealing with about 96% of students passing out, graduating. 786 of them were placed, 189 moved for higher studies, and 76% placement. And at 6 lakh rupees median salary. I still think that is lesser for the quality of institute that it has, but that's what it is. And this seems to be a problem largely for local institutions because they're finding it much more challenging to get the right colleges to come for placement purposes. And the kind of placements, how the branches that were placed, CSE students 208 were placed. We don't know how many students were intake, but we know so many were placed. IT 187 students were placed, EC 90 students were placed, EEE 61 were placed, mechanical 56 were placed, civil 28 were placed, chemical 22 were placed, and biotechnology 14 were placed. Now just remember the intake here is each of them is 60. So just imagine the kind of placement that you have where some of these branches have less than half the placement. Now what is the competition? What is the highest closing rank in the open category? TS EAPCET 2025 data of what kind of rank will get you into this college. BE Computer Science and Engineering 2053, BE Computer Science and Engineering AIML 2158. Remember 207,000 students took the examination, so this is 99 percentile, this is 98.9 percentile, this 3059 is essentially 98.5 percentile, this is 98.5 percentile, and this is 98 percentile. So that's the kind of thing. For BE Artificial Intelligence, you need to have 98.5 percentile to get there. BE Computer Science Engineering with Internet of Things and Cybersecurity, including blockchain technology, 3082, which is 98.5 percentile. And for BE Information Technology, you need 98 percentile to get into CBIT. The next one is VNR Vignana Jyothi Institute of Engineering and Technology in Hyderabad. This is established in 1995. It's a private college spread over 21 acres. 7,575 students pursuing UG. 63% are boys, 38% are girls, 6.7% are from outside the state, 93% from within the state, right? And 607 students, which means we're dealing with 1:13 kind of a student-faculty ratio. Now, here when we look at the placement statistics, 1,500 was the intake, including lateral it is 1,611, 1,370 is the graduating students, 1,107 were placed. So placement ratio is pretty decent. Only 127 moved for higher studies. 89% placement, 5 lakh rupees. So you have more chance of getting placed, but the salary for sure is lesser. And by the way, most of these things, in the states of Andhra, Telangana and all, what's happening is the software companies are coming for placement and the salary is about 3.7, 3.6 lakh. So it brings down everything in terms of median, and which is what seems to be happening here. How many students were placed in each of the branches? From CSE, 376 were placed. From AIML, 280 were placed. IoT, 75 were placed. Data Sciences, 166. ECE, 287. EEE, 97. And Mechanical, 90 students were placed from VNR Vignana Jyothi College of Engineering. And what is the highest closing rank that you need? For BTech Computer Sciences, it's 1,652 over the highest closing rank open category through TS EAPCET 2025 data. So this would mean 99.2 percentile, right? And at BTech Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, we're dealing with 98.9 percentile. For BTech Artificial and Data Science, 2512, again we're dealing with 98.8 percentile. And so on and so forth. Data Science is 2,696 rank and BTech Computer Science and Business System is 3,367, which means we're dealing with 98.3 percentile. So that's the kind of numbers or merit that you need between 98 percentile to 99 percentile to be able to get into this particular college. So it's quite competitive to be a part of VNR Vignana Jyothi Engineering College through the normal quota. Of course, you have management quota if you do fail in this, but the best option is to get into the normal quota only. Then you have Osmania University, College of Engineering, established in 1929, government college, 200 acres, 1,430 students, 47% of boys, 53% of girls, 17% come from outside the state, 80% from within the state, and 2.1% come from outside the country also. And here, the intake is the last data that we have for placement for 23-24, which means they would have got into it in 2021. 320 students was the intake, 320 was the admitted, 310 graduated, 220 were placed, 42 moved for higher studies, 82% is the placement percentage. The median salary here is 10 lakh rupees, which is very, very good. The median salary suddenly jumps if you notice. That's because you have a smaller cohort. And when you have a smaller cohort, it's much easier to get placed. When colleges expand to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, they'll keep taking students, but it's difficult to place and then the median salary keeps falling and the placement percentage also keeps falling because the merit also keeps falling. And that is what happens here. If you see this one, 10 lakh median salary, everywhere 98%, 82%, 81% kind of a placement. And the median salary seems to keep increasing at some level. And how's the placement happened? 32 in mechanical engineering, civil is 838 students, CSE 63 students, ECE 34, EEE 49 and mechanical 66. Essentially it's a 60 intake. This might be having a bit of a lateral, but 60 intake, and that's the kind of placement that you're dealing with. And what's the highest closing rank for you to get here? 2,547, which means that you're dealing with 98.7 percentile, right? And then for AI and ML, it's 3,463, which is about 98.2 percentile. B electronics is 4,549, B electrical and EEE is 8,322, and B mechanical is 11,843. Right. So essentially what we're dealing with is, but when you talk of this 94 percentile, 94.2 percentile kind of a number, right? So it's quite competitive here, but possibly of all the colleges that you have, this seems to have a better data. I just hope the data that they've submitted to the government of India is true. But what data says, if it's 10 lakh median salary at that kind of a number, it seems to be good. But when you have a smaller cohort, I do believe that it's possible that the numbers are correct. So that is what we're dealing with. The last one is Vasavi College of Engineering in Hyderabad. Established in 1981, it's a private college spread over 13 acres, 3,400 students, 68% are boys, 32% are girls, right? And about 94% students come from the state of Telangana itself, right? And the faculty-student ratio is very attractive because 207 for 3398, which means there is one faculty for every 16, 17 students. Now, the kind of numbers that you have in terms of placement, they have an intake of 780, but with lateral it is 868. The graduating students is 813 from this 868, 491 were placed, 83 moved for higher studies, 67-68% placement at 7 lakh rupees. Now the worry that I have in this is, if you notice the placement percentage earlier, it is 94%, 88% and fell down to 67%. Why did this fall? I don't know. Why did this fall? I don't know. But very clearly there seems to be some kind of a red flag that the college is struggling to place its students. Right? It's not that the median salary went up dramatically when this fall happened, which happened in some other cases, if you realize. But in this particular case, it's not that the intake went up. It's 780 across the board. It's not that the placement median salary went up dramatically. It still remains the same. But the placement fell down by about 21-22%. Now that is something that one needs to be looking at. Now, what's the kind of placement percentage branch-wise when you look at it? 91% students of CSE students were placed, CSM 92% were placed, IT 88% were placed, EC 69% were placed, Triple E 53% were placed, Mechanical 51% were placed, and Civil only half the students were placed. By the way, in this also there is a big caveat because you take out people who move for higher studies. And there's a greater possibility that people in these branches would have moved for higher studies because they didn't want to opt for placement because of the kind of quality of placements that were coming to them. That's a great possibility. Now, what are the kind of rank that you need to get into this college? 2292 for CSE. For AI and machine learning, 2450. So when you deal with 2292, dealing with 98.9 percentile. Right? This is 98.8 percentile. Right, and 4295 is about 98 percentile, right, and 6206 is 97 percentile, and this is about 94 percentile. So between 94 and 99 percentile is what you will get into CS, artificial intelligence, BE information technology, electronics and communication engineering, and Triple E. That's the kind of quality of students that they have. I just hope they deliver the outcome also that they need, right? So this is our thing about TS EAPCET. If you want me to cover any college, any exam, write to me here. I'll be more than happy to cover that. If you want me to cover deeply any of the colleges that you want to get admission into, talk to us. And please subscribe to BTech 360. And lastly, if you want to talk to us personally, the number is here, message us, and one of our counselors will call you. Thank you so much. Namaste.